The motorcycle engine roared beneath me, and I gripped the handlebars so tight my knuckles turned white. 66 years old, and here I was, doing the one thing I swore I'd never do. The wind hit my face like a slap, and for just a second I couldn't breathe. Not from fear, from everything else, from the weight of 15 years, from the promise I made to my boy, from knowing that he should have been the one sitting on this bike, not me. "Mom, you okay?" the ride captain yelled over the rumble of 50 motorcycles lined up behind us. I nodded, but I wasn't okay. I hadn't been okay since the day they handed me that folded flag. Let me tell you how I got here, how a mother who never even sat on a motorcycle ended up leading a memorial ride with a patch on her jacket that had her son's name stitched across it. This isn't just about a bike ride, this is about a promise that almost killed me to keep. It started 15 years ago, on a Tuesday morning that felt like any other Tuesday. I was making coffee in my kitchen in Columbus, Ohio. The same kitchen where I'd made breakfast for my son Danny every morning before school. The same kitchen where he'd told me about his dreams, his fears, his plans for the future. But that Tuesday, Danny wasn't there for breakfast. He was halfway across the world, wearing a uniform I was so proud of and so terrified by at the same time. I was pouring creamer into my cup when the doorbell rang. It was 8 in the morning. Nobody rings doorbells at 8 in the morning unless something's wrong. I remember my hand shaking so bad I spilled coffee all over the counter. I didn't even clean it up. I just walked to that door like I was walking to my own grave. 2 uniformed officers stood on my porch. I saw their faces and I knew. Before they said a word, I knew. "Mrs. Peterson?" I couldn't speak. I just stood there, holding onto the doorframe because my legs had stopped working. "May we come in?" I don't remember letting them in. I don't remember sitting down. But somehow I was on my couch, and they were telling me that my Danny, my 23-year-old son, who still called me every Sunday, like clockwork, wasn't coming home. Roadside bomb. That's what they said. Like those 2 words were supposed to make sense of the world ending. Like those 2 words explained why my boy was gone and I was still here. I want you to understand something. Danny was my only child. His father left when Danny was 2, and it had been just us ever since. Just me and my boy against the world. I worked double shifts at the hospital, picked up extra hours on holidays, ate cereal for dinner so he could have decent clothes for school. I did everything a mother could do, and he turned out beautiful. Not just handsome, though he was that too, with his father's dark hair and my blue eyes. He was kind. That's what people said at his funeral. Danny was the kindest person I ever met. Over and over, people told me that. If you're watching this and you've got kids, hug them tonight. I mean it. Just hug them and don't let go for an extra second. Because you never know which hug is gonna be your last. The officers left me with pamphlets about grief counseling and support groups, like a pamphlet was gonna bring my son back. Like sitting in a circle with strangers was gonna make me feel better about the fact that I'd never see Danny walk through my door again. For 6 months, I didn't leave my house except to go to work. I'd come home, sit in Danny's room, and just stare at his stuff, his baseball trophies, his high school yearbooks, the model cars he'd built when he was 12. Everything was exactly how he left it. People kept telling me I needed to move forward. What does that even mean? How do you move forward when half your heart is in a cemetery? Then one day I was going through Danny's closet and I found a box. It was full of papers, magazines, printed articles, all about motorcycles, memorial rides, veterans gatherings. There were dozens of flyers for something called the Rolling Thunder Ride to Remember. At the bottom of the box was a letter, addressed to me in Danny's handwriting. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely open it. This is what it said. Mom, if you're reading this, I'm probably gone. I know you hate thinking about that, but we both know what I signed up for. I need you to do something for me. I need you to go on the Rolling Thunder ride. I know you're scared of motorcycles. I know you think they're death machines on wheels. But Mom, this ride is about remembering. It's about people who served and people who loved them. It's about not forgetting. I always wanted to take you on that ride. I wanted you to see what it means to people. I wanted you to understand why I joined up, why I went over there. I wanted you to feel what I feel when I think about service and sacrifice and brotherhood. Please, Mom, do this for me. Get on a bike, take the ride. Feel the wind and the sun, and be around people who understand. Don't spend the rest of your life locked in that house being sad about me. I want you to live. I want you to remember me by living. Love you forever, Danny. I must have read that letter 200 times that first day. I cried so hard I thought I was gonna die right there on his bedroom floor. But mixed in with all that crying was something else, something I hadn't felt in 6 months. Purpose. Danny wanted me to do this. My boy, who never asked me for anything, was asking me for this one thing. If you've ever lost someone you loved more than life itself, hit that like button. Let me know I'm not alone in this. And please stay with me, because this story gets harder before it gets better. I called the Rolling Thunder organization the next day. My voice was shaking so bad, the person on the phone asked if I was okay. I want to ride, I said. My son, he wanted me to ride. They were quiet for a second. Then, ma'am, do you have a motorcycle? I almost laughed. Almost. No. Do you know how to ride one? No. Another pause. Ma'am, we'd love to have you, but you need to learn first. We can connect you with instructors. We can help you get set up. But this ride, it's not easy. It's long and it's emotional, and you need to know what you're doing. I was 66 years old. I'd never even sat on a motorcycle. Most people my age were thinking about retirement and grandkids and cruise ships. But I'd made a promise to my son. Sign me up, I said. Whatever it takes, I'm doing this ride. What happened next changed my entire life, and I'm about to tell you all of it. The motorcycle training center was in a parking lot behind an old shopping mall on the east side of Columbus. I pulled up in my minivan at 7 in the morning on a Saturday, and there were already a dozen bikes lined up like soldiers waiting for inspection. My stomach was doing flips like I was about to jump off a cliff. I sat in that van for 10 minutes, just staring at those motorcycles. Every single one of them looked massive, dangerous, like metal beasts that could kill you if you didn't respect them. And I was supposed to learn how to ride one of these things? A knock on my window made me jump so hard I hit my head on the roof. You coming, or you gonna sit in there all day? A woman's voice, rough around the edges but not unkind. I rolled down the window. She was maybe 50, with short gray hair and tattoos running down both arms. She wore a leather vest covered in patches and pins. "I'm Judy," she said. "You must be Dolores." I nodded, not trusting my voice. "First time?" "Yes." "Scared?" "Terrified." She smiled. Not a polite smile, a real one. "Good. People who aren't scared are idiots. Fear keeps you alert. Come on, let's get you on a bike." I got out of that van on legs that felt like jello. Judy walked me over to the smallest motorcycle in the lot. It still looked huge to me. "This is a Honda Rebel," Judy said, patting the seat like it was a friendly dog. 300 pounds, low seat height, perfect for beginners. "You're gonna learn on this before we move you to anything bigger." "I don't need anything bigger," I said quickly. Judy laughed. "That's what they all say. Now tell me why you're here, and don't give me some generic answer. Why is a woman your age learning to ride?" I could have lied, could have made up some story about adventure or bucket lists, but something about Judy made me tell the truth. "My son wanted me to," I said. "He died in Afghanistan 15 years ago. He left me a letter asking me to ride in the Rolling Thunder Memorial. I'm keeping my promise to him." Judy's whole face changed. The tough instructor expression melted away, and what was left was pure understanding, pure compassion. "What was his name?" she asked quietly. Danny Peterson." "Okay, Dolores, we're gonna get you ready to ride for Danny. But I need you to understand something right now, before we even start. This bike doesn't care about your fear. It doesn't care about your grief. It only responds to what you do. You control it, or it controls you. There's no middle ground." "Can you do that?" I thought about all the times I'd had to be strong for Danny. When his father left and he cried himself to sleep. When he broke his arm in Little League and I had to stay calm while driving him to the hospital. When he told me he was enlisting and I had to smile and support him even though I was dying inside. "I can do that," I said. The first 3 hours were the hardest thing I'd done since burying my son. Judy taught me how to start the engine, how to feel the clutch, how to give it throttle without flying off the bike. I stalled that engine 47 times. Yes, I counted. Each time I wanted to quit. Each time I thought about going home and forgetting this whole crazy idea. But each time I heard Danny's voice in my head. "Please, Mom, do this for me." By noon, I was rolling around that parking lot at 15 miles per hour, and I felt like I was flying. The other students, all at least 20 years younger than me, actually clapped when I made it around the course without stalling. "Not bad for an old lady," Judy said, and there was pride in her voice. I went back every weekend for 3 months. 3 months of early mornings and sore muscles and fear that sat in my chest like a stone. But slowly, something started to change. The bike stopped feeling like an enemy and started feeling like, I don't know how to explain it. Like a partner, maybe. Like something that would take care of me if I took care of it. Judy became more than an instructor. She became a friend. She'd lost her husband in Iraq 12 years ago, and she rode to honor him. We'd sit after class and drink terrible coffee from the vending machine and talk about our people, the ones we'd lost, the ones who made us who we were. "You know what nobody tells you about grief?" Judy said one day. "It doesn't get smaller. You get bigger around it. You grow new parts of yourself that can hold it. That's what this bike is for you. It's a new part." I thought about that a lot in the months that followed. I passed my motorcycle license test on the first try. The examiner was this young guy who looked bored until I told him why I was getting my license. Then he looked at me different, with respect. "My grandfather rode in Rolling Thunder for 20 years, he said. "What you're doing, it matters." Next came the hard part, buying a bike. I had some savings, but motorcycles aren't cheap. And the ones big enough for a long-distance ride were expensive. I was looking at used bikes online, trying to figure out how to afford one when I got a phone call. "Is this Dolores Peterson, Danny Peterson's mother?" My heart stopped. Nobody called me Danny Peterson's mother anymore. "Yes," I managed to say. "Ma'am, my name is Robert Chen. I served with your son. I was with him when I was there." The world tilted. I sat down hard on my kitchen floor. "I heard through the grapevine that you're trying to get a bike for Rolling Thunder," Robert continued. "Ma'am, Danny saved my life. He pushed me out of the way of that blast. He died so I could live. I owe him everything. I owe you everything. I want to buy your bike." "No," I said immediately. "No, I can't accept that. Please," his voice cracked, "please let me do this. I have 3 kids because of your son, 3 kids who have a father because Danny didn't hesitate. Let me honor him this way." I was crying too hard to answer. "I'm bringing you a bike next Saturday," Robert said. "It's already decided. You can argue with me all you want, but I'm a Marine and I'm stubborn as hell." He showed up that Saturday with a beautiful, blue Harley-Davidson Softail. It was perfect, not too big, not too small. And across the gas tank, in elegant script, he'd had them paint, "In memory of Danny Peterson." Robert stood in my driveway, this big, tough Marine with tears running down his face, and he hugged me like I was his own mother. "He talked about you all the time," Robert whispered. "He was so proud of you." He'd be so proud of you now. Subscribe to this channel if you believe in keeping promises to the people we love. Because I'm about to tell you what happened when I actually got on that bike and headed to Washington, D.C. for the ride. I spent the next 2 months practicing. I rode around Columbus until I knew every street, every turn, every pothole. I rode in rain. I rode in wind. I rode until the bike felt like an extension of my own body. Judy rode with me sometimes, teaching me highway riding, teaching me how to ride in a group, teaching me all the hand signals and rules of the road. "You're really doing this," she said one day, and it wasn't a question. "I'm really doing this," I answered. The night before I left for D.C., I couldn't sleep. I went to Danny's room, which I'd finally packed up, and turned into a guest room. But I'd kept one thing, his military photo. He looked so young in that picture, so proud, so full of life. "I'm doing it, baby," I whispered to that photo. "I'm keeping my promise. I hope you're proud of me." I left at dawn. The route from Columbus to Washington, D.C. was about 400 miles, 7 hours of riding alone on a motorcycle at 66 years old. My hands were shaking when I started that engine. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. But when I pulled out of my driveway and pointed that bike east, something happened. I felt Danny with me. I can't explain it any other way. It was like he was riding right behind me, his hands on my shoulders, telling me I could do this. The first 100 miles were the scariest. Every truck that passed me felt like it might knock me over. Every gust of wind made me grip the handlebars tighter. But mile by mile, I relaxed. Mile by mile, I started to understand what Danny had wanted me to feel. Freedom, connection, the world opening up in a way it never does from inside a car. I stopped for lunch in Pennsylvania. and an older couple on motorcycles pulled up next to me. "Rolling Thunder?" the man asked, pointing to the patch on my jacket. "Yes, sir, first time." "Who are you riding for?" "My son, Danny Peterson, Army, killed in Afghanistan." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "We ride for our son, too. Marines, Iraq." We stood there in that parking lot, three strangers bonded by the worst thing that can happen to a parent, and we just understood each other. No explanations needed. They rode with me for the next 100 miles, flanking me like guardian angels. When we got close to DC, they pulled alongside and saluted me before taking their exit. I made it to the hotel in Arlington just as the sun was setting. My whole body ached. I was exhausted. I was scared about what tomorrow would bring. But I'd ridden 400 miles on a motorcycle. Me, Dolores Peterson, 66 years old, who 6 months ago had never even sat on a bike. I called Judy that night. "I made it," I said. "Of course you did," she answered. "Now get some rest. Tomorrow's the big day." I tried to sleep, but I kept thinking about the morning, about joining thousands of riders, about rolling through DC with Danny's name on my jacket, about finally keeping the promise I'd made to my boy. What I didn't know was that the next day would break my heart and heal it at the exact same time. The rumble started before dawn. I was awake anyway, hadn't really slept, and the sound of motorcycle engines firing up all around the hotel made my whole body shake. Not from the vibrations, from knowing what was about to happen. I got dressed slowly, pulling on my jeans and boots like I was putting on armor. The jacket came last, the one with Danny's patch. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. She looked strong. She looked ready. She looked like someone who could keep a promise. The parking lot was chaos, beautiful chaos. Hundreds of motorcycles, maybe thousands, all lined up in formation. Riders wearing leather vests covered in patches and pins. American flags everywhere. The air smelled like gasoline and coffee, and something else I couldn't name. Purpose, maybe. I found my assigned position in the formation, and that's when the nerves really hit. My bike suddenly felt too big, too powerful. What was I thinking? I was one old woman about to ride in a group of thousands through the capital of the United States. First-timer? I turned. A man about my age sat on the bike next to mine. He had kind eyes and a gray beard. "That obvious?" I asked. "You're gripping those handlebars like they're gonna run away." "I'm Frank. Who are you riding for?" "My son Danny, Army, Afghanistan, 2010. Frank nodded slowly. "My daughter Sarah, Navy, Persian Gulf, 2012, 24 years old." We looked at each other, and in that moment we were the same person. Two parents who shouldn't have to bury their children. Two people trying to make sense of the senseless by riding motorcycles through city streets. "Stay close to me," Frank said. "I'll help you through." The ride captain's voice came over the loudspeaker. "Riders, start your engines." Thousands of motorcycles roared to life all at once. The sound was deafening. It was powerful. It was like the earth itself was shaking. I turned my key, and my bike joined the chorus, and I swear I felt Danny smile. "We ride for those who can't," the captain's voice boomed. "We ride to remember. We ride to honor. Let's roll." The formation started moving, slow at first, like a massive metal river flowing through the streets. I kept my eyes on Frank's taillight and tried to remember everything Judy had taught me. Stay steady, keep your distance, trust your bike, trust yourself. We rolled through Arlington, and people lined the streets, thousands of people, waving flags, holding signs. Some were crying, some were saluting. Little kids sat on their parents' shoulders, eyes wide at the sight of so many motorcycles moving together. And then I saw them, the signs some people were holding. Thank you for your service. We will never forget. You are not forgotten. My vision blurred with tears. I couldn't wipe them away because I needed both hands on the bike, so I just let them fall. Let them stream down my face while I rode. We crossed into D.C., and the crowd got bigger. Tens of thousands of people, maybe more. The sound of all those engines echoed off the buildings like thunder. Rolling thunder. Now I understood the name. Frank glanced back at me, checking if I was okay. I gave him a thumbs up, even though I was falling apart inside. But it was a good kind of falling apart, like something hard and frozen in my chest was finally melting. We rode past the Lincoln Memorial, past the Washington Monument. The formation moved like one living thing, all of us connected by grief and love and the refusal to forget. Then we approached the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall, and the formation slowed. This was the moment, the reason for the ride, the place where we honored them all. One by one, riders pulled out of formation and parked. I followed Frank, my hands shaking so bad, I almost dropped the bike when I put down the kickstand. But I didn't. I got off that motorcycle on steady legs, and I stood there in the middle of thousands of riders, and I just breathed. Come on, Frank said gently. Let's go to the wall. We walked together. This man I'd just met, who understood everything without me having to explain. The wall stretched out forever, covered in names. 58,000 names. 58,000 people who never came home. But today wasn't just about them. Today was about all of them. Every war, every conflict, every person who put on a uniform and didn't come back. I found a quiet spot and I pulled out the photo I'd brought. Danny in his dress uniform, smiling that smile that used to light up my whole world. I set it against the wall and I knelt down on the ground, not caring that my knees hurt, not caring that people could see me crying. I did it, baby, I whispered. I kept my promise. I got on that bike and I rode here for you. I felt the wind like you wanted me to. I felt what it means to remember. I understand now. I understand why this mattered to you. A hand touched my shoulder. I looked up. It was a young soldier, maybe 25, in full uniform. Ma'am, is this your son? I couldn't speak. I just nodded. The soldier came to attention and saluted Danny's photo. Held that salute for a long moment. Then he knelt down beside me. My mom died when I was deployed, he said quietly. She never got to see me come home, but someone like you, someone like her, she's probably out there riding for me too. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for remembering. He stood up and walked away before I could respond, and I just cried harder. Because that's what this was about, connection, understanding that we're all carrying impossible grief, but we don't have to carry it alone. People kept coming by. Riders I'd never met. They'd see Danny's photo, see my patch, and they'd nod or touch my shoulder or just stand with me for a moment. Nobody needed to say anything. We all spoke the same language here. Frank sat down next to me and pulled out his own photo. His daughter, Sarah, beautiful in her navy whites, her whole life ahead of her. Does it ever stop hurting? I asked him. No, he said. But it starts hurting different, less like dying and more like loving someone so much that even the pain is precious, because it means they were real, they were here, they mattered. We sat there together, two parents at a wall full of names, and we didn't need to say anything else. The day moved on. There were speeches and ceremonies and moments of silence. But what I remember most is the riders, thousands of people who could have been anywhere else, doing anything else, but they chose to be here. To ride, to remember, to make sure these names weren't just names. As the sun started to set, I walked back to my bike. My body was exhausted. My emotions were wrung out like an old dish rag. But there was something else too, something I hadn't felt in 15 years. Peace. Not the peace of forgetting, not the peace of moving on. The peace of knowing I'd honored my son the way he'd asked me to. The peace of understanding that Danny's death wasn't the end of his story. It was the beginning of mine. I started my bike and Frank pulled up beside me. You heading back to Ohio? He asked. Yeah, you? Michigan. Maybe we ride together for a while? I'd like that. We joined a smaller group heading north, about 20 riders, all of us worn out and emotionally exhausted, but somehow lighter than when we'd arrived. We rode through the twilight, and the world looked different to me now, bigger, more connected, full of people carrying their own griefs and joys and promises. We stopped at a diner somewhere in Pennsylvania. The whole group crowded into one section, and we sat there eating terrible coffee and decent pie and telling stories about our people, the ones we'd ridden for, the ones who made us get on those bikes even when we were scared. An older woman named Patricia rode for her husband. A young guy named Tommy rode for his best friend. A couple named Jean and Bill rode for their son. Each story was different. Each story was the same. You gonna ride again next year? Frank asked me. I thought about it. Thought about everything the day had taken from me and given back. Thought about Danny and his letter and his dream for me to live. Yeah, I said. I think I am. I think I'm gonna ride every year for the rest of my life. Frank smiled. Good, we'll ride together. I made it home to Columbus 3 days later, taking the long way, stopping at little towns and scenic overlooks, learning my bike and learning myself. When I pulled into my driveway, Judy was sitting on my porch steps. Well, she said, standing up. I got off the bike and I hugged her, this woman who'd taught me how to ride and how to be brave and how to keep promises that seemed impossible. Thank you, I said. Thank you for everything. You did it yourself, Dolores. I just showed you where the clutch was. That night, I sat in my living room with Danny's photo in my lap, and I talked to him like I used to when he was little and had a bad day at school. I met so many people, Danny, people who understand, people who remember, people who care. You were right, this ride, it's not about the motorcycles. It's about love that doesn't end just because someone dies. It's about keeping each other going when we want to give up. I paused, crying again, but good tears this time. I'm gonna keep riding, baby, every year. I'm gonna make sure your name is on that bike, and people see it and remember you. Not just as a soldier who died, as my son who lived, who was kind and brave, and who wanted his scared old mother to feel the wind and the freedom and the connection. And I have kept that promise. This year was my 15th Rolling Thunder ride. I'm 81 years old now, and I still get on that bike every May. My body doesn't move like it used to. My hands shake more, but I ride. Frank still rides beside me. We've become family. Him and me and dozens of other riders we've met over the years. We're the memory keepers, the promise keepers, the ones who refuse to let our people be forgotten. If you've made it this far in this story, I want you to do something for me. Think about the promises you've made to people you love, the ones you keep putting off because you're scared or tired or think you have more time. Keep those promises, do the hard things, get on the bike, whatever your bike is. Because life is so short and love is so big, and the people we've lost deserve to be honored by the way we live, not just by the way we grieve. Danny wanted me to live, so I do, every single day, every single mile. And if you ever see an old lady on a blue Harley with a name painted on the tank, riding in a sea of thousands toward Washington, D.C., that might be me. I'll be the one crying behind my sunglasses. I'll be the one keeping a promise to my son. I'll be the one who learned that the biggest adventures sometimes come when we're scared out of our minds, but we do it anyway because love demands it. Hit that subscribe button if this story touched your heart. Share it with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to keep a promise. Comment below and tell me about the promises you're keeping or the people you're remembering. We ride to remember. We ride to honor. We ride because love doesn't die when people do. Thank you for riding with me through this story. Thank you for remembering Danny with me. And to everyone out there carrying grief and trying to figure out how to keep going. Get on your bike, whatever it is. The road is waiting, the wind is calling, and the people we've loved are cheering us on. From wherever they are, keep your promises, live your life, remember with love. That's what Danny would want. That's what they all would want. And that's what I'm gonna keep doing until the day I can't ride anymore. Please comment your thought about this story.